To explore the Rotate tool, I'd like to build a project. Begin by going into the top view by pressing Command 1. Activate the Polygon tool by pressing N. Click the origin point, and then click a point along the green axis. Set the radius at 22 feet. Type 12S to create a 12-sided polygon. Press the spacebar to activate the Selection tool. Select the face and delete it. Select the polyline representing the 12 equal edges, and press Command G to group it so that we can protect the edges. Use the Polygon tool again and click this top vertex. Click another point, and then set the size at 18 inches. Type 4S to create a square polygon. Double-click to select the face and its polyline edge, and then press G to create a component. I'll call this Post. Let's not worry about the complexity of components yet. Just give it a name and click Create. Activate the Rotate tool by pressing Option R. There's a protractor attached to the cursor. The first part of any rotation is to set the axis of rotation. In this case, it's the origin point, so I'll click right here. The next part of a rotation is to pick up the object. I'll pick it up right here at the center of the post. The next and final part of the rotation is to click a point to indicate the angle that you want to rotate in. Before I do that, however, I'm going to press the Option key to leave a copy behind. It works just like the Move tool in that respect. So now I'll click this point to set down the copy, and then I'll type in 11x to multiply the copies by 11. So now there are 12 posts, or 11 copies. I'll go into a 3D view and press J to use parallel projection. Press the spacebar to activate the Selection tool. Double-click on a component to go inside of it. Use Push-Pull to pull it up. I'll bring it up to 13 feet. And then click outside to close the component. The beauty of components is anything you do to one of them happens to all of them the same. Next, we'll build a beam that goes across here. To do that, I'm going to draw a line here. Notice that I can't really use the Rectangle tool here. If I try that, the rectangle is oriented with respect to the axes. It might be helpful in this case if we reorient the axes by pressing Option A. I'll set the origin point of the new axes here. I'll make the red axis go down along the post, and the green axis go along this edge of the post. So now our axes are coincident with this line. I can now use the Rectangle tool, and it will work along these new axes. I'll use Push-Pull and pull this down a distance. I'll make it 2 feet. And then I'll Push-Pull in about 6 inches. Over here, I'll do the same thing, 6 inches in. Triple-click on the beam and press G to create a component. I'll type beam and create that component. Now I'd like to rotate that component around the structure, but to do that I need the origin point back. So I'll reset the axes by pressing Shift-A back to their original location. Now I'd like to go ahead and rotate out a copy. I'll select the beam, press Option R for Rotate, click the center of rotation at the origin point, start the rotation along the green axis, it doesn't really matter, and start rotating. I'll press the Option key to leave the original behind. I could make a single copy like this, or I could go to another post and choose the proper angle that I want to create a copy, like this. And then I could say 2x to make an additional copy. Another approach is to divide the number of copies amongst a full circle. So to do that, I'm going to select this object, activate the Rotate tool, click the center of rotation, click a point to start the rotation, the Option key to make a copy, and then type in 360 to go full circle. So now I have the original and the copy coincident. Now I can type in a number that I want to divide equally. So I'll type in 3 divided by to give me 3 equal copies along a full circle. SketchUp does the math. I can say 4 divided by and see how that is, or 6 divided by. I like this arrangement. Let's stick with it. Now, because I made this array of 6 beams based on the full circle, I'm left with a copy on top of the original. You can just see that here. I'm going to leave that there just to demonstrate something to you. I'm going to use the Move tool with this one object selected. When I put the cursor over it, you'll notice that there's 2 red pluses on each edge. These are rotate opportunities for you within the Move tool. If I click on one of these pluses, you'll notice that there's a red protractor that appears centered on the object. If I click right here on this plus, I have the chance to actually rotate that. In this case, this might be interesting if I go ahead and make this unique so that it's no longer connected to the other components. Then I can double click on it, make it smaller without affecting all of the other beams. And I can do the same thing here. Pull it up, pull it over, and then just push this back. So we have a post spanning this open space. Let me just hide that for now. Let's say, for sake of argument, that I want to create a circular rod that spans between these beams. To do so, I'll draw a line from this intersection to the other one. Then I'll zoom in this area. To make a rod, I'll be using the Follow Me tool. It's necessary to make a profile shape that's oriented with respect to this path. So I'll make a circle centered here, and I'll give it a 3-inch radius. To protect that, I'm just going to double-click and group it by pressing Command G. Now I need to rotate that so that it's perpendicular to this line. To do that, I'm going to use the Rotate tool, of course, and the center point will be here. But instead of clicking, I'm going to click and drag along this vector. You see, any way I drag, it's a way to orient the Rotate tool. I'm going to drag along this line and then release the mouse button. And that has oriented the Rotate tool so that we can rotate along this axis. Now I'll click along the face here to pick it up. I'll move up 90 degrees and click again to finish that rotation. We rotate it up, but we still need to rotate it 90 degrees in plan. If I come over here, you'll see that the protractor kind of jumps around because it's not sure of which orientation I want. I'd like to lock in this red-green plane orientation. In other words, rotate along the blue axis. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key to lock that inference. And then when I come in here, there's no more of that jumping around. I can just click to set the axis, and then pick it up and move it over 90 degrees. When you go out here, you have finer control because you're further away from the center. If you come in here, it wants to lock to 90-degree angles. You can also hold down the Shift key to lock to smaller increments. So I'll click right here and we have a 90-degree rotation. Now I have it oriented correctly, perpendicular to the path. So I can explode this group, pre-select the path, press F for Follow Me, and click on the face. It happened to be inside out. I can reverse the face and then orient the face. Now let's say that I want to put a roof on the structure. I'm going to delete these objects for now. Draw a line from this corner point in towards the center. Then I'll pre-select the line and use the Rotate tool. I want to rotate it up to the slope angle. Notice that I don't really have the correct angle here based on the geometry of the post. I'd like to rotate it around the green axis. So to do that, I'm going to change my point of view until I see the green axis appear on the protractor. Then I'll hold down the Shift key to lock that inference. Click right here to set that as the center of rotation. Then I'll click a point to start the rotation. And instead of entering an actual angle value, which you can do, I'm going to enter a slope expression. So for example, let's say it's 6 in 12. That's 6:12. Or maybe I want it to be less steep than that. Perhaps 4 in 12 would be better. Let's try that. So that's 4 inches up and 12 inches over. This is a rise::run expression. Now I'll just complete the geometry by drawing in a line along the red axis and another line up from the origin point. I'm going to explode this group, which is protecting the 12-sided polygon, and have it selected as the path. Press F for follow me and click on the face to create the roof.